So in the first clips of the second section we are going to have a look at lines where black refrains from playing an early c6, and that also brings some small problems with him, as in certain lines white may able to play moves like queen b3. So let's have a look at how play may proceed. Knight f6, e3, and now bishop f5 is one of the possibilities, and basically white has two options here. I have decided to go for the move queen to b3, but another line is knight ge2. I think the move queen b3 is more to the point, as it simply attacks the pawn on b7, and since black hasn't played the move c6 yet, black cannot answer the move queen b3 with queen b6. So after queen b3, black's main response is the move knight c6. Before we move on, the move b6 is not really an option, because white has to strongly reply knight to b5, attacking the pawn on c7 with a fork, and if you play the move knight a6, then there is queen a4 attacking the knight and threatening to give a discovery check with the knight as well. So instead the move queen c6 is the main continuation, and here there are several possibilities for white to proceed, and it's important to realize that the move queen takes b7 actually almost leads to a draw by force after the move knight b4, as black is threatening to play the move knight c2, and after, let's say, moves like bishop b5, king f8, rook to c1, there are several different ways to reach the particular draw we are going to show, but one of them is to play the move a6, the bishop retreats to e2 for example, and now knight goes to e8, and the point is that after a3 you see that the queen on b7 is just stuck. So rook b8, queen a7, rook a8 leads to a typical repetition. There are several ways and some ways to deviate, but in general this is not the line I would like to propose for white. Instead, the main continuation I like is the move a3, and the point is that it simply covers the b4 square, so white is threatening to take the pawn on b7 right now. Another option for white is to play the move g4, trying to deflect the light squared the minor pieces on f6 and f5, and after, let's say, bishop takes g4, white can simply take, because there are less threats on the c2 square. And after knight takes g4, the pawn on d5 is hanging. This is a very interesting line as well. It leads to more double-edged play, but objectively speaking, I think the move a3 offers white better prospects fighting for an advantage. So black basically proceeds with the move knight to a5, attacking the queen, and here the queen needs to choose where to go, and I think the move queen a2 is quite interesting. The queen looks a bit awkwardly placed at first sight, but on the other hand it also exerts still some pressure on that pawn on d5, and the knight on a5 is also not particularly well placed. So this is an interesting continuation. Let's have a look how play may proceed. After queen a2, black castles, and now white continues developing his king side, so knight f3, and here we come to an interesting point, as black has basically two ways to proceed. He can try to play the move c5, which is in my opinion the main line, but another continuation is the move c6, with the idea to play b5, and the knight may go to c4 after that, trying to gain control over white's queenside play. So after c6, I think a move like b4 is not correct. The knight has no way to retreat to c6 anymore, so knight c4 is forced, and white can take the pawn by taking twice on c4. But after the move a5, I think that black has excellent counterplay against the queen side. The pawn on b4 is threatened to be taken, but also after a move like b5, the rook may go to c8 pretty soon, and suddenly the black pieces are well placed, especially considering the fact that white hasn't castled yet. So white needs to be a little bit careful, not ending up in a slightly inferior position. So one idea I like better for white is to play the move rook to c1, already gaining some additional control over the c-file. And now, for example, the move b5, I wanted to meet that with the move knight e5, so that the pawn on c6 becomes a new target. And after rook c8, I wanted to proceed with bishop d3, trading off that light squared bishops, which in general is favoring black, as we have mentioned in other lines as well. But in this particular case, after trading the light squared bishops off, we see that the pawn on c6 has become a backward pawn and offers white some play against to play against. So after, let's say, knight to c4, I think white can simply try to play a move like a4, trying to undermine the queen side, and the weaknesses on the queen side for black, they're from a permanent kind of. So I think it's not entirely satisfying for black. White retains an edge here. So instead of the move b5, black can also try to chase the bishop away with a move like knight to h5. And there's some funny line, as the move bishop c7 is possible here, with the idea that after queen takes c7, there's knight takes d5, making use of that pin along the c-file. But after queen to d8, take on e7, queen takes e7, there's the move rook c5, and suddenly three pieces are hanging on the fifth rank. But I think that after the move bishop e6, queen to e1, black can play the move knight f4, and suddenly after a move like rook to a5, black plays the move bishop d5, and there's a lot of pressure on white's position. He hasn't castled yet. There's the pin. That pawn on g2 is still a source of problems for white. So I think this gives black the initiative. So this tactical idea with bishop c7 unfortunately doesn't work. But the move bishop to e5 I like pretty much. And suddenly black cannot follow up with the move f6 because it's weakening too much that diagonal. So only now the move bishop c7 is pretty strong. As after queen takes c7, knight takes d5. Suddenly there are also discovery checks with the knight going away from d5. Bishop e6 is forced, and after knight takes c7, bishop takes a2, knight takes a8, rook takes e8. White can play the move b4, and you see that the knight on b3 is in huge trouble and soon will be trapped in white's camp. So this is just a very nice line illustrating how things can go wrong for black. Instead, the move f6 is of course not forced. He can consider to play a move like b5 anyway. But in that case, white may simply continue with the move like bishop e2, eyeing to the knight on h5, which is just misplaced, knight c4, for example h3, and after knight to f6, I think white can just count on an edge after castling kingside, and white keeps the dark squared bishop on the board, can eventually retreat to h2, and after trading knights, trading the knight on e5 for the bishop, then white retains excellent pressure against that backward pawn on the c file. So this is just a typical line how white can play for an advantage. So very good example of how white tries to make use of that queen on a2. In the next clip I'm going to show you how white will play after the move c5.